We're going to change the front pads on this B7 Audi A4. We'll use the tool that's in the toolkit from the trunk to pull off the center caps. Turn the wheel all the way to one side, and that makes it a lot easier to access the caliper bolts. You have one top 21mm caliper bolt, one on the bottom that's also a 21mm. We can remove the top caliper bolt, and we'll pull out the bottom caliper bolt. We'll pull that caliper off. And we'll hang the caliper off to the side, make sure there's no stress on any of the brake lines or wires, especially with one this heavy. Pry out the pads. We'll unplug the wear sensor, and it seems that these are always broken. And I'll pry the back pad out. I'll pull out the bracket here. The guide pins just slide out, and you can take this out. Now I've got more room to retract that piston. Now, unfortunately, I needed to break out a tool that normally I don't like to break out. It's kind of big and heavy, and we call it Doc Ock, just because of this front attachment. And you might know it as something similar to like the Jaws of Life. You have this hydraulic spreader that we'll use to bring the piston back, just because I can't really fit a normal tool in there to push that piston back, so this works. I've done it before. We'll just gently pump this, watch that caliper slowly and smoothly push back into place. Nice and slow, and I feel it come to a stop, and I won't go any more than that. You can see the piston is pushed back in there now. Now we can start to put the new pads in. The one with the brake wear sensor is going to be the rear pad. It's common for new brake pads to come with grease that you can put on the guides, just so everything rides smooth and it's not going to be grinding. You want the grease everywhere that this is going to be sliding back and forth, but most importantly, you just don't want it on the braking surface. The wear sensor plug feeds behind here, and it just goes right past the piston. And we can push this a little closer in. A little tricky to get this all to fit. That's it. And the next pad, start to slide this one in place. We'll get this positioned on the rotor. Now, I mean, this caliper is a bit heavy. This is quite a large caliper, so it'll be kind of fun to maneuver around and get it back in place. Nice, it fits on. It's always nice to put clean hardware back on the car, and everything goes back together nicely when all the threads are clean. So I clean it up on the wire wheel, get it looking nice, and then everything goes back together a little bit easier. Now, a slightly controversial opinion, but I like to put anti-seize on the caliper bolts whenever I put them back in. Makes them easier to come out next time, and they go in nice and smooth. And reinstall the caliper bolts. To get this back into the clip, you just take this tab, you put it sideways, and it'll kind of fit down, and then you twist it so that tab goes down to the bottom and links into that hole. We'll reinstall the front anti-rattle spring, and this keeps your brakes from squeaking and squealing when you're coming to a stop. And it's pretty common for these to fall off. This is a new one, as you can tell, because this one was missing. And you have this tab right here, and then on the brake pad is a tab that it goes into. So this tab right here goes into that hole right there. This is a little bit tricky to put on by hand, so I'm going to put it on one side, and I'm just going to fiddle with this. Give it a little tap. There we go. With that all back together, we're ready to go ahead and put the wheel back on and do the same thing to the other side.